Hello everyone, my name is Suzanne Ellingham. I'm the head of content for Spring Fair, and I'm delighted to see so many faces for this discussion. I'll introduce the ladies in a second, but I think when we think about pop-ups, for me, I feel it's a really important new business tool for retail. I think all retailers that we speak to want to have newness in their stores, but we're also seeing that need to support local makers, local businesses, and we're seeing that real collaboration between retailers wanting to help smaller businesses along. And as well as that, it acts as a very vital tool in the high street to bring in newness and help support potential new retailers onto the high street. So I'm absolutely delighted. And when I heard about Charley's scheme that she runs as the Pop-Up Agents, we had to invite her onto stage and bring some of her lovely makers with her. So to introduce the ladies, so we have Charley at the end. So Charley Crocker is a lead consultant for the Pop-Up Agents. We have next to her Samantha, who looks after Zuma. We have Anna, who looks after... got a bit nerves there. Karina, thank you, Karina. Karina, who looks after Plain Jane, and Kim, who is the creator of Kimmy B. So I'm going to start with you, Charley. So Charley, tell us a little bit about the Pop-Up Agents and what you do in Horsham.
So my name's Charley Crocker, and I'm the founder and principal agent of the Pop-Up Shop Agents. I always say I'm a full-time crime writer and a part-time entrepreneur because that's kind of my full-time job. But at the moment, we are trying to get as many small businesses on the high street as possible. Obviously, COVID has hit us incredibly hard as small businesses, and part of what we do is provide training as part of our retail hubs. So we call them incubator hubs, and we would really like to see one on every single high street.
And I think what I really love about your scheme is you provide the space as well as the training. So tell me what that scheme looks like in Horsham.
So the project that we've just finished was a 3-month pop-up for Horsham District Council. It was funded and run by the council and backed by the Pop-Up Shop Agents. And something that we have found with using a bigger space, obviously for landlords, with the rates and the rental, it's harder for them to let a larger commercial space. Things are smaller, nobody has any money anymore. The 10-year commercial let that was previously so common is fading from our high streets. So we were able to put retailers on a ground floor. So we had a retail floor, much like a Luxe department store. And then on our second floor, we were able to provide training, business workshops, art workshops, and sort of a creative makers community. And we do feel from a customer point of view that this is something that's really important. When people on the high street at the moment, they are looking for something different, they're looking for something sustainable, locally sourced, and they're really interested, I think, in the story behind the sellers.
Yeah, and I think we see it so much that consumers are gravitating towards supporting businesses where they know the face that's behind it. And I think your scheme works really well to bring that forward.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen so obviously there are various different ways that we work our pop-up shops, but something that we have seen, and we try to encourage the smaller retailers, is that it has to be hybrid. So you have to be online, offline, so you can be bricks and mortar, which is great, customer feedback, marketing, different ways to pay, but also in our stores we provide a QR code, so that customers can be led directly to the seller's website, and this is something that we pretty much trialled with this project, and it's been hugely successful. So we've had a couple of sellers.
I took advantage of.
Yes, we've had a couple of sellers who weren't actually in store. So we were in West Sussex, and we've had Sam and Karina who weren't actually in store at all, but they were working purely from QR code.
Yeah, and Karina, I'm going to ask you first, how does that work? Because I think when people think about bringing a new brand or doing a pop-up, there's that feeling that it needs to be manned all the time, but both you and Sam have got a completely different approach.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, when the opportunity arose, I didn't really think I was ready for a retail space. So this was perfect for me, actually. So it's in Horsham. I'm based in Devon. I use the pop-up shop as kind of like a showroom for my product. So we had the QR codes, which would direct the customer to my website, where they then purchase the product, and then I send it onto them from my base down in Devon.
And I'm going to give you a little plug because we've all got your products, but tell us a little bit about Plain Jane.
So,
when did you start that journey? Because you were a pretty brave lady. You started fairly recently.
So only less than 2 years ago, I was made redundant. I was cabin crew for Emirates in Dubai. So coming out of that in normal circumstances would be hard enough, but COVID, it wasn't so easy to just find another job. So I pretty quickly realised I've had to do something for myself. So started Plain Jane, which is a travel and aviation themed gift shop, and been primarily selling on Etsy and joined the pop-up shop last year.
And I mean, you've always been quite creative because I can see the prints down there, but how did you go from Etsy to the scheme in Horsham? How did you find out about it?
It kind of by accident, really. It was through networking, through other cabin crew, ex-cabin crew have started new businesses. So Charley actually used to be ex-crew as well once upon a time.
It's a small world, the travel industry.
Small world. And yeah, like I said, I didn't really think I was 100% ready for it, but thought this was a great platform. It was kind of like an Etsy Live, really. So it was a great platform to go from that to occupying a retail space.
Yeah. And Sam, I'm going to come to you next because unlike Karina, you're a little bit further away from the pop-up side. Tell us a little bit about Zuma.
Well, Zuma is my children's entertainment character brand. He was born about 2007. The idea came based on my real life Jack Russell and all the crazy things he used to get up to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've been involved with Charley and various other pop-up schemes since about 2015.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And I've always enjoyed the experience. And this time I was managing the whole project remotely from Switzerland. So it was difficult, obviously, because of COVID and all the travel regulations. I just couldn't get to the store at all. So we worked really, highly with the QR code system. And what I also did was, people will buy through the QR code, through the website, and things were shipping directly to the customer. What I also found, though, coming up to Christmas, that I wasn't able to get product to customers in time through shipping. So we developed a system where they would put a code into the website, and then it would eliminate the delivery charge, so then the customer could then take the product with them there and then.
Yeah. So I find that quite interesting because obviously if you're so remote and you manage in that stock system, how were customers? Were they quite friendly with you, or how did you manage? Because I think, taking a step back, I think a lot of people who deal with online deliveries and maybe some retailers who are in the room will know a little bit about the challenges of getting stock from one place to another and getting things in an environment where customers want things tomorrow. How did you manage that?
Well, I keep all my stock in the UK.
Yeah.
And everything's shipped within 48 hours, as if it would do if you were buying from Amazon or anywhere else, really.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'm curious about, because one of the keys to this scheme is that you don't carry a huge amount of stock in that store.
No.
It really is like a range. So how did customers feel about not being able to take it away with them there and then, that it was going to be delivered tomorrow?
I think they were fairly happy on the whole. It's quite a new concept for some people, but because we've all been dealing with COVID, we've been at home, we've been used to buying online the whole time. So to be able to combine that with a retail store has actually been more successful than we thought, because it was very much a trial for us. But one of the reasons that small businesses quite often struggle on the high street is that they do have to have this massive amount of stock, and this eliminates the need for them to buy in a huge amount of stock. It makes it more sustainable. It means that when people do buy a product, it can be made, I think in Sam's case, within 48 hours, dispatched to the customer. And we feel like that's definitely the way to go for the high street.
Yeah, I think we live in an environment where very large online retailer we're not going to mention has got the ability to get things to people same day or next day, and there's this perception that customers need to have things instantly. So it's actually quite reassuring to hear that in your case actually customers are happy to buy in store and wait for it to be delivered to them.
I think when you're purchasing from a smaller seller with potentially personalised items, bespoke items, I found most people are quite happy to wait just a little bit longer than your same day delivery.
Not mentioning names.
So I haven't really encountered many problems with that at all.
Which again, I think is a reset for many of us who feel that customers want things instantly.
Yeah.
It's like, I think COVID has possibly, whilst there's been people who want things instantly, people have also been happy to wait, mainly because they have no option, but they've become a little bit more understanding that it does take effort to get things to places.
And I think with COVID as well, people have missed that face-to-face interaction and the handling of the product as well. So while you've still got the convenience of buying online, you can also see the product that's a perfect combination.
Yeah, and Kimmy, I'm leaving you out of the conversation.
Okay.
I know, again, you all have very different journeys,
Yes.
but please tell me, how did you get involved and what's your experience?
Yeah, so I started my business in 2017 and was doing well, and then obviously COVID struck, it kind of impacted me quite a bit. But the great thing about the pop-up shop was being able to meet customers whilst, my exhibits weren't happening. So me or a member of the team were in the store and were able to interact and get feedback, and did a lot of charitable things as well around Christmas.
You did a lot of events, I think. So Kim was someone, she was in store the whole time, but she was constantly thinking up new social media content.
Yeah.
She did a gift wrapping service at Christmas, which was extremely popular. I think you did that for charity. But because she was there the whole time and people could actually see her almost making the product, and she sold very, very well. I think you did really well, didn't you?
I think it just made it much more authentic to meet the maker. And to understand about the product and really know the history behind it. And all my products are eco soy wax and the candles, so they like to hear more about what the fragrance combinations are and why I come up with them. And so it was definitely a brilliant platform for me.
Yeah, and I think what I love is all three of the ladies have got very different, all within the same programme, all very different sales approaches. So Kimmy is very hands-on in store, doing events, whereas both Karina and Sam are not in store. So I think one of the key things that I learned about this is, again, it's that perception around pop-ups and manning it, and you can do that or you can't do that. And maybe for lessons for any retailers who are thinking about how you collaborate with small makers is just to bear that in mind. But one of the things that I was really interested in was the technology side. Are you going to just delve into that a little bit? So I think, again, some of the perceptions around technology within store is that it's the domain of larger retailers. There's quite a few larger retailers who have this click and collect scheme where they don't carry a lot of stock on site, and it seemed very much as their thing. It's something really expensive to implement. But actually what I really like about this scheme is that the QR codes, which we've all got used to using through COVID when we check in and check out, have become a really cost-effective way of doing business. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about that. And obviously, Kim, you were in store with people. Did you use the QR codes as well? So how did people react to that?
Just not a problem at all. I think ultimately with my product, it was great for them to be able to touch and smell it and see what they're going to get. And see you. And particularly around Christmas, people were happy to sort of order things and get it sent as a gift as well. We were doing gift wrapping service as well. So there wasn't a problem with that. Obviously, I benefited from being in the shop at times and had a member of the team in store so they could actually sell direct if the customer wanted to. But and I obviously, also being there, I was able to interact with some of the other customers that were buying other products. And there was not any kind of pushback on that. People were happy to kind of, again, be able to look at the product and know what they're going to get, definitely.
And Charlie, I'm going to ask you, how does that work? Obviously, you're the brains behind the scheme. So, well, you are.
It's a team effort.
Maybe later. How did that work setting that up? Because, again, it's not something I see often in retail stores, and especially with smaller makers. So tell us a little bit about how that works, because I think there's a really great shared learning here for a lot of retailers who maybe could benefit from knowing a bit more about it.
So I think the initial concept was something that we... a long time ago, I used to have a market stall, and I used to have a pop-up bookshop, and that's how I got started in pop-up. And then, of course, books don't do very well in the winter, so I tried to find a store, and I realised how hard it was. Obviously, pop-up is not a new concept, but the way our ideas are changing and our views are changing. And so for this particular pop-up, we decided we wanted to be able to offer something that was very easy for councils to pick up, a very easy package, but also reflecting the power of hybrids. So the QR code was something that it's easy for retailers to generate a QR code, and I think the ones that did best were the ones who had a QR code on every separate product. So you can obviously have one that leads just directly to your website, but if you want more customer sales and interaction, you need one that leads directly to your product. And this was something that was actually more successful than we expected to. We expected people to be veering more towards the traditional, but again, I think possibly COVID has had a hand in this, that people don't really want to have cash anymore. Very few are using cards. Possibly this is the way things are going on the high street. So for the retailers to have the QR code in their bag of tools, and for it to be very easy for the retailers to move in, the payment system set up, and when they move out, it all goes really smoothly, is something that we would like to kind of shout about to local authorities, that we should have the small business on the high street, and this is how easy it is.
That sustainability element as well to it.
Exactly.
Not having the need to stock up your space with a ton of stock.
Yeah, and there's no paper receipts.
No paper
We try to
receipts.
relate the use of single-use bags, so people bringing in obviously their tote bags to collect the products. And we did run a click and collect, a local click and collect. Many of the retailers had free delivery. It was very much a community scheme, but it's one that could be replicated anywhere in the country.
Yeah. And I think just on that, you mentioned their local authorities. How did that work when you were approaching the local authorities? Because you do a lot of training and funding, but tell me how you make the most of that relationship, how you persuaded them to give you the space first. You're laughing.
So the local authority in this case, I have done previous work with Horsham District Council, and they were extremely receptive. The Economic Development Department, extremely receptive, want to help local business, wanted to give it a boost. So they actually approached me this time. I did a previous project with them in 2015 as a pilot project, and they said we have this massive store with the landlords, because obviously a lot of councils do own property. A lot of the property is vacant because of the way the commercial lets are going at the moment. And they said, we want to do this, we really, really want to help. Will you come on board? Will you develop a package for us, make it bespoke so that we can actually help small business and so that we can combine training? So something we also did in store was we had a council-led high street retail development program. So we had speakers in and we had training on websites, we had mentoring, we had B2B, social media, marketing, all of the things that you really need as a small business on the high street, but perhaps that you don't know quite how to access. And it was very successful.
Yeah. And one thing I wasn't aware of, which was amazing, was actually you work to make makers aware of the funding that's available to them.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of those funding schemes? Because I'm pretty positive. If I don't know about them, it's quite possible not many people do as well, although...
So I think local councils do have a lot of funding available for small business, but it can be hard for small business to go to a council website and kind of plough through all of the blurb and not be quite sure where to kind of look. In this case, we worked with Horsham District Council. They came in and actually gave workshops and said to small business, you would be eligible for this particular funding. There is funding available for retailers. If you're already on the high street, there was actually a grant to change up your shop window. There was a grant for an Instagram trail, and all of these things people weren't aware of because it was hard to find. And through this kind of screen to the high street, we were able to make small businesses aware. So actually I myself applied for funding and through something called the LEAP funding, and I went through the process just to see how it would work as a tester, and it was really easy. I am not someone who would think about doing that normally, but I was then able to say to the businesses, yeah, this money is available for you, and it's something, yeah, everyone should know about.
I think also it was a safe space to ask questions, so I asked the daft question of, do I have to pay it back?
Exactly.
It's not a daft question.
Yeah. And I think also just to say, having the different businesses in one space and the training sessions, it just created sort of a melting pot of ideas and be able to
Everyone
share
sharing their experiences.
Definitely was beneficial in that way.
And I think what you've grown through doing this is a real community. I mean, you ladies know each other, speak to each other, and I think, Kimmy, you're in store quite a lot, and I think you actually help sell some of the other products for some of the other
I didn't take commission.
Maybe you should.
I think Kimmy kind of knew our products before she knew us.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
And I think when you're looking at a scheme like this, and I know, Charlie, we've spoken about this quite a lot, it's like when we think about what the high street should look like, I think we all know consumers are looking for those local products and those small businesses. And I think there's lots of vacant space at the moment from department and those anchor stores, maybe that will be filled by the same thing. But wouldn't it be fantastic to see a scheme like this where instead of those department stores are big brands, it's almost like a maker's market of all of these different pop-ups that consumers can explore?
It would be, I think, really beneficial to all of the small business. And it's not just from the local area, because we obviously have sellers from further afield. And to be able to get your products into another area and so to be able to target another market is extremely important, I think, from a business point of view.
But I think what it also provides is that product development, so that feedback, because obviously Karina and Sam, you are remote.
Yeah.
So how have you used that sales data coming through to tweak or develop some products?
Well, in-store, the feedback in-store was really, really useful, because like I said before, everything was through Etsy prior to that. So you don't get the feedback from the people that don't buy from you.
Yeah.
So while I was remote, I did set up the store when I was there. So that first couple of days, it was really, really interesting to see what products drew people in, what didn't, how things were presented. That was really, really useful.
I think also the QR code, you're gathering a lot more data on people,
Yeah.
aren't you? Rather than just taking cash payment and then leaving the store without grabbing that
because I
email
can
address.
documented.
When the sales come in, I can see what products are selling and what's more popular, and I can see, people were gifting, people were buying mostly the books at that point.
And just on that, obviously we're talking about the QR codes from a sales capacity and how that could help tweak the product development, but I'm assuming you're also capturing those email addresses for marketing as well.
Yeah.
So how have you found that people have come back and done repeat sales with you through that?
Yeah,
I think it's too early to tell that because we've got January.
From that,
One of the good things for me has been because some of my products I do recycle, so being able to bring the product back in for me to recycle, and then they take your discount off the next product, or refill as well I was doing. So I had quite a lot of return custom, and again, great having the outlet to be able to, give that platform to exchange the product.
And you can get to know, I think, with your customers in store, you build a loyal customer base in store on the high street, and they then follow you online. So they're waiting for your newsletter, they're waiting to see what's new on your website, and so you're just kind of adding as you go along.
And just on that, you mentioned refill. Obviously, as a show, as Spring Fair, we do actually care quite passionately about sustainability within our own campaign, The Power of One, and also by encouraging all of our exhibitors to really know what the sustainability aspects of their products are. So obviously the refill, how popular has that been? You mentioned you've had a few repeat customers.
Yeah, so we offer a teacup with feet as well, which has been super popular, and people were bringing it back in to be refilled, and also I'm able to send out the refill itself for the cups. That was one thing, but I'm working on a new product with Jesmonite, which will be refillable with candle, but people really want to be able to reuse the product,
They really do, don't they? I know I do as a consumer, definitely.
So the dream would be if we could have a pop-up in each kind of district, then people would be able to take their glass back to that pop-up and get a voucher, and maybe go to the next district and, go into the pop-up there and redeem their voucher, or go online. So just having that platform is really, really, vital for a small business like mine.
And I think what I love about that is I think most retailers want that return footfall into their stores. So offering these refill services is just a really nice way to get them in every 4 to 6 weeks. And I think looking for those little tricks and tweaks that retailers have in their back pocket or through the scheme is really positive, because if anyone's like me, they walk into a store and it's like a magpie. It's like you go in for a refill, but maybe you buy another teacup. One of the things I'm quite curious about is, and I'll ask this question to all of you ladies, but I'll start with you first, Kimmy. What's been your biggest learning from this project? What's the one little thing that you think actually that made a massive difference?
So I think I already knew exposure and being on the high street in such a great location was going to be just brilliant. I knew it would be, and it paid off. But I think my biggest learning has been about the grants. I didn't know what was available at all. I haven't yet taken up one, but I'm planning on doing it for sure in the near term. So that was definitely my biggest learning.
And Karina?
Yeah, sorry to kind of copy your answer, but it is just... all that information is out there, and all the experiences from all the other sellers there is very useful, and it's probably something I didn't utilise as much, that networking and researching into what help was available to me. So it's definitely opened my eyes to that.
No, I can imagine.
It's exactly the same, really. It's just the opportunity to have your product and your brand on the high street location, your logo in the store window. That's invaluable, really.
I think the grant element is a huge learning for people to understand that go to local authority and talk to them. Not everybody has a lady who knows those local authorities incredibly well, like Charley, and who can essentially distill all of the financial support that's available. But Charley, what's been your biggest learning on this project? I'm guessing you have quite a few. I'll give you two.
I think possibly with this project more than ever, there's been a massive sense of community, of small business joining together, but also of customers joining together to support the small business. The QR code actually has been my standout. The hybrid, the online-offline selling, we were a little bit nervous about launching that. We really weren't quite sure how that would go. And that has been my standout positive from this one. There's masses, there's a whole list, but that's a standout for me.
And I think that, again, just when we talk about learnings and things that we can share, I think all of you ladies have got interesting learnings that actually could benefit any retailer that is here as well, in terms of taking that away and popping it into their own store. Charlie, where do you see the scheme going? I know you mentioned you're going into a few local authorities. Are you looking to roll this out in the other local areas over the next year?
Yeah, we are hoping to. We're speaking to 3 or 4 other local authorities within the South East, but because we've developed this package and having just literally done this project after COVID, we know what local authorities need. We know that sometimes they're very lacking in resources within them. So we are able to provide everything from the licensing to the admin, and it really is a bespoke package, and it's not very expensive when you consider the benefits for the local businesses on the high street. And something else that we can do is well, now that we have a community of local businesses, we can take these guys to Surrey, to Kent, to Yorkshire, remotely or non-remotely, and then we can join up with those local businesses, and it's something that gathers momentum as it goes forward. But it is something that could be replicated anywhere in the country, and basically we can set it up and then we can run it, or the sellers can run it, or the local authority can run it. It's very flexible, very bespoke business model.
Yeah, I think it's quite a smart model as well, and I think it sounds like something that could be incredibly complex, but I think you've built the foundations for it to be scaled.
We wanted to make it easy, didn't we? So that it was easy for the sellers to understand, because obviously if you're a small business, you're signing a license on the high street, you're very worried about signing kind of your life away if you haven't been used to that kind of thing. And equally from the local authority, they have to be extremely careful. So we're able to curate the sellers, we're able to provide a completely tailored service ready from conception to pull down, and it's a huge part of that is the small business. And once the council see how amazing the small business are, they kind of want to do it again. So we're already speaking to Horsham District Council about potentially doing another pop-up with them, and it is something that can fit in and out between commercial lets. We can be in for 2 weeks, we can be in for a month, we can be in for 6 months, and as long as we have the training and the retail running side by side, there's no reason why they shouldn't be everywhere.
No, that's good. I know we've got a packed room, which is fantastic, so I'm going to open it out to questions. Does anybody have any questions for any of the ladies on the stage? We have a lady over there. Just give us a second, Cash will be over with the mic.
Hi, I was a little bit late to your session, so I apologise if you've covered this and if it's a basic question. But how have you found the problem of shop fitting? I was just thinking. Because when a retailer goes in, signs a lease and takes over a shop, you see the shop fitters go in and everything's arranged. But on a pop-up, it must be a bit different.
So we were able to work directly with, it's very important to us that everything comes locally. We were able to work with a local shop fitter who actually generally does shop windows in London, but they focus very much on sustainability. So we were able to give them a budget. This is something very important with the council working within procurement guidelines. And we were able to say, although the store in this case was not in a good condition, and ideally we would have loved to have white boxed the whole thing, that wasn't within budget. So we worked to upcycle wooden pallets, we worked with them to upcycle sustainable panelling on the walls, and it came in well within budget. So I believe they told me that generally a shop fit could be anything in excess of £100,000, and that would be a small budget. This one actually came in below £20,000, mainly because we're recycling, we're using sustainable pieces.
Great. And I think there was a gentleman, another question over here? No?
Don't be shy, guys, raise your hands.
Any other questions? Oh, yep. Sorry, there's a lady over here. Sorry.
Hello there, ladies. Just a quick question on the QR codes. You talked a lot about that. When you say put them in store, you've got the actual product there and then a QR code next to it, so people can either buy it there and then or scan the QR code and come back to it online later on. Is that what you mean?
In my case, I don't know if were they all the same or
yours were going directly to each product, weren't they?
Yeah. So each of my products had its own individual QR code, which would direct the customer to the website. They purchase it then and there. And then that they can either take away the product, depending on what arrangement you have, or that would go through to me to then distribute to them.
Okay, so they wouldn't buy it there and then...
They do buy it
or
there
they
and
buy
then,
it online and then take it away with
yes,
them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or get you to send it direct.
Yes, exactly.
So would they
You could
still...
do it either way.
Right, okay. So would they take the product to a till, or was it literally just
They
purchased
can
through the
Literally
website?
scan it.
Yeah,
You just scan it, there's no till involved.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Just giving people a second option. Any other questions? There's a lady over here, and then a lady there. Oh, we'll go to you next.
With your shop fit, what do you do with it afterwards?
That's a Charlie question again. Sorry.
So it depends on the local authority in question. In this particular, the one that we have just finished, in Horsham in West Sussex, the council will be reusing the pieces in a couple of events that they have planned for the summer, and then reusing them for the next pop-up. And we do try and encourage that, because some of the shop fittings are left by previous tenants. If the commercial tenant has moved out in a hurry, or perhaps there have been financial difficulties, they do leave quite a lot of pieces, and we reuse those. And so we always encourage local authorities to reuse everything that they can in the shop.
And the lady over there?
Hello. Sorry. Thank you. It's very inspiring. 2 questions, if you don't mind. Firstly, the QR code. Do you offer training and advice on how that can be set up?
We do, yes, we do, because it can,
I
it
didn't
can
have
be
a
quite
clue
daunting.
beforehand. No.
But it can be quite daunting. And in fact, I myself wasn't actually sure how it worked, but we were able to provide, one of the things that we do is provide in-store one-to-one mentoring. So it can be B2B, or it can be that we bring in an expert we worked a lot with Enterprise Nation, obviously a small business startup, is very important. So yes, we provide training all the way along. So right from the first application, we'll speak to the person, we'll make sure that they're right for the store, ask about their products and their aims for the business. Every step of the way, we're there to help out.
Second question, another question. What kind of contracts do you offer for for these individual makers? Some people might be scared to go into a pop-up if it's too long, too much. Do you offer a very bespoke, small package for them so it's not daunting?
Yes, very flexible at Horsham, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very important to us that people... So obviously pop-up is massive, you know, everybody does it, from Kylie Jenner to Kimmy B. That for us, we actually offered a one-day pop-up for businesses that purely wanted feedback, they wanted marketing, perhaps they had a very new business, or perhaps it was just a concept idea that they wanted to get on the high street. So we offered a one-day package, we offered a one-week package, and then we offered a monthly, and some of our sellers, we couldn't get rid of them. They stayed in for 3 months. But that was lovely, and that was very much part of the flexibility of Pop-Up.
And I think I'll just expand on that, because one of the reasons that I invited Charlie here to talk about this programme is that everything was bespoke, dependent on the maker's capabilities. So if you're a retailer and you're thinking, how do I bring a pop-up, or how do I help a maker? I think it starts with the conversation around how much time and resource do they have to actually help you, like Kimmy, who can be in store, Karina, who can be there for the setup. But I think it's important to really understand with the maker what they can devote to you before it goes forward. And that's one thing I think Charlie's done incredibly well.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm just wondering how your business survived through COVID.
Well, my business arose as a result of COVID. So, yeah, I was made redundant from my job as cabin crew, and it was kind of set it up to survive, really. So that's me.
Yeah, for me, my online store kind of took a lot, was much higher in demand than, obviously I was doing events before COVID, but yeah, I had a lot more online activity, but and then getting into the store, the pop-up shop, and it's been a great opportunity to sort of get back out there.
Yeah, for me, everything's kept on a small scale anyway, so I manage a lot of everything, so I don't have much in terms of outgoings, so I was able to keep everything on a very small scale, so I can still keep things going.
Yeah, we did have to think a little bit more creatively, didn't we, about how we were going to promote ourselves when we couldn't put ourselves out there, going to, like you say, shows. And so, yeah, it's been interesting.
I think we hear a lot from retailers. Obviously, COVID's been incredibly challenging. I mean, we're an events business, so I think we understand possibly as much as some of the retailers and the makers here. I think it's brought opportunity and creativity. And one thing I absolutely love about this scheme is it has offered all of these ladies a different route to market. And I think as much as sometimes situations like COVID can be incredibly negative, hard work, probably cause anxiety through the roof, sometimes it acts as a spark of creativity and gives people an opportunity to do things differently. And I think that's one thing that we've loved seeing at the show. We have time for one last question if there is any. No?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this gentleman here.
Morning, ladies. This is for Charlie. You've been talking mainly about local authority as the landlord. Have you got any experience with commercial landlords, and what sort of legal mechanism do you use with them to try and open up their units for pop-ups?
So I have to be honest, it is harder for commercial landlords, but they do, there are advantages for them to have pop-up, for instance, insurance and rates breaks that perhaps they may not know about. It is harder for them because I think there's a huge pressure on high street landlords if they're not local authority, because they have to make money, and perhaps they've got 3, 4, 5 stores that are currently empty. They still have to pay their mortgages at the end of the day. But something that we have developed with one of our agencies, actually a commercial assets manager, is a very bespoke, a very easy license. So it then benefits the landlord because we go in, the store is bright, it's welcoming, it has customers, it has a high footfall. And we actually found with the Horsham store, which, to be honest, was in a really bad state when we went in, the fact that we were able to, on a budget, make it look amazing meant that one of the reasons they then secured a long-term commercial tenant. So we work with the landlord to say, yes, we have these benefits, but I completely understand it's a risk for landlords because they don't really want people in. It's stressful, isn't it, for a landlord? You know, if people are in, are you going to be able to get them out? And how is it going to work? And are they going to damage the property? And so because of the licensing that we have and because of the curation process we do, we can successfully reassure retail landlords. And I have worked with a couple of them previously, with great success, actually.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. So I think that's it for us for time, but I just honestly want to thank both Charlie, Sam, Karina and Kimmy for coming with us and coming down to Springfair, or away coming over from Switzerland, to share their stories, and hopefully it's been a great discussion and maybe offered food for thought for some of the people here. We will be around for a few minutes if anybody has any questions or wants to see some of the product that they've brought along that brings it to life. But thank you so much, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.